And we are live. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Butterfueled Live. We are your hosts. My name is Anderson, and I'm here with my brother.
I'm Jay. Thanks
Yeah,
for joining.
and we are Butterfueled. Our mission is to advocate for animal based foods and dispel away food myths, all while helping humans like yourself get healthier and achieve better health and fitness. If you're interested in two-on-one coaching, hit us up on at Butterfield Fitness on Instagram. We have a great show planned for you today. We'll be talking to Amie from Franchesca's Dawn Farm.
Oh, looks like she's here.
Looks like she's here. Perfect.
Awesome. Add to stream.
Awesome. Hey, Amie.
Hey,
Yes. Can you hear
You
me
go-
okay?
Yeah,
yeah.
we can hear you. Can you hear us?
Yes.
All right. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Good. Good. Yeah, so we spoke on the phone last time. I think it was like what, like 2 weeks ago?
Something like that.
Yeah, and I'm here with my brother.
Hey,
Yeah.
Amy. I'm Jay.
Hey, nice to meet you.
Nice to
Yeah,
meet you.
yeah. Thank you so much for coming on the show. We appreciate you being here.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah, just looking for the opportunity to get to hear more about your story. What got you into farming, and we'll ask you many questions because as I told you last time, we're very interested in learning more about farming, right? Just about everything that gets involved in the process. But yeah, if would you like to introduce yourself? Maybe just give a brief background about what you're doing at the farm currently.
Okay. I'm Amy Herrera. My husband Kevin and I own Franchesca's Dawn Farm in Halifax, Virginia. And currently we're raising grass-fed beef. We have American Milking Devon, which are a heritage breed of cattle. They're actually the first cattle brought over by British, or the English, I guess, rather. There were some other cattle brought over by the
Mhm.
Spanish before that, but these cattle came over in, I think, 1623 or 1624.
Mm.
Uh, it's an old breed. They finish slowly. They don't taste like your typical Angus. They don't finish like your Angus. They also have horns because they were used as oxen. As previously, when you had a cow, you used it for everything you could. So it served to do labor for you. It gave you milk, and you ate it.
Yeah. So the females have horns as well.
Everybody,
Oh
both,
wow.
yeah.
Yeah. I didn't know that was possible.
It's interesting. A lot of people ask me that. Yeah, goats the same way. Male and female goats both have horns, but sheep, it's only the males. I don't
Yeah.
know.
And what was the name of the breed? You said Devon.
It's called American Milking Devon. They're
American
also
Milk.
related to the Red Devon breed. They were the foundation stock for the Red Devon breed, which is bred exclusively for beef, and they're a little bit heavier. But we also have pigs. We do raise pigs out in wooded areas on the farms and use them to clear brush and stuff so we can convert more land to pasture.
Oh, amazing. Wow. What kind of breed, if you don't mind me asking?
Most of the pigs are Gloucestershire Old Spots, also an old British breed. They're white with black spots and have huge floppy ears that point point forward and hang over their noses. So there's a few of
Yeah.
them where I can't see where they're going. They
Yeah.
have
I was looking at some reels on your page, and I saw that you recently had like a litter of pigs. Well, I don't know
yeah,
if it was an old post, but I saw them running, and I was surprised by just how fast they were running around.
right. They are
Yeah.
up with usually within 5 to 15 minutes of birth. They're up, sometimes even faster. They get up and they nurse almost immediately.
Wow, that's crazy. And do the pigs? I read online that the average like litter size for pigs is like 7. Is that
I
also true for these?
It really depends on the some of the heritage breeds. They have smaller litter sizes. Commercial pigs, they're breeding them for more like 14 to 18 pigs in a litter.
Oh
Ours,
wow.
the old spots on a younger animal, a small litter would be 4 to 6 on a first time animal. But The two that had piglets in August, one of them had 5 piglets, the other had 11. So you average that out, and you still get 7 or 8 piglets a litter.
Yeah, yeah. Wow,
Yeah.
that's crazy. Yeah, it seems like pigs are really efficient livestock to raise for meat.
They are. The heritage breeds grow a little bit slower, cost a little bit more to raise them, takes a little bit more time, and you have to charge a little bit more, I guess, for the pork in order to make that work. But yeah,
Yeah.
tastes.
Cool, cool. Yeah, I'll ask you. I have many questions about the pigs,
Oh, sure.
but before we dive into the pigs, I'd like to hear more about your story. What got you into farming? Like, is this something you've always been interested in, like all your life, or just kind of came to discover it later?
That's a good question. I was into horses. I was that little girl that was obsessed with horses. Um, and I really didn't have an interest in cattle. I became a vegetarian at 15 or 16 years old, and I stuck with that. I was probably 35, 36. It was about 20 years as a vegetarian when I quit.
Wow.
We were overseas. My husband's with the Foreign Service, and we were overseas for 10 years. And I had already had digestive issues even before we got married, starting at age, I was 21 when my digestive issues started. And it took me 25 years to get a diagnosis, which I just got. But we're not there yet. So anyways, I suffered from a lot of bloating, and I felt terrible. There were nights when I just needed to go to bed, and I visited doctors overseas. I flew home to get tested for celiac disease, and listened to all kinds of baloney from different doctors, telling me I have IBS, and just pretty much just deal with it. There's nothing you can do about it. So
Oh God. Yeah.
I started doing my own research, and eliminating wheat made a big difference for me. Didn't cure it 100%, but at the time when I gave up wheat, I was covered with bruises. I looked like I'd been beaten. My fingernails were falling apart. My hair was falling apart. And at the time, I was starting to gain weight as well. So eliminating wheat helped. And we were in Colombia at the time, so that would have been about 2006, 2007 when I gave up wheat. So when we moved to Guatemala, I still wasn't feeling great, and the bloating was increasing again. I was feeling terrible, and the bruising was worse. I mean, I looked like my husband had beat me with a baseball bat, which he didn't do.
Oh God.
Yeah, so I started eating meat again, and that helped a lot. I tried the
Hmm.
paleo diet, and on the paleo diet, my stomach felt amazing. I felt good. Energy was better. Bruising went away. Fingernails stopped falling apart. It really made a huge difference. So it's hard to stick to, especially when you're overseas. You're expected to attend functions, and they're not always serving food that you can eat. It's
Yeah. You're saying sticking to paleo was hard?
I found it difficult.
Yeah.
um, yeah, my husband is supportive enough. He would like to follow paleo. He tends to cheat when he's not supervised.
Yeah.
So yeah. So anyways, we left Guatemala in 2014. We actually got medevaced out for one of our kids was sick, and we were sent home. And we had already bought the first farm, as retirement property. It had an old house on it that I really wanted to fix up. And so my husband he had to stay overseas. He was actually doing a war zone tour at the time. And so he had to return to his post. And so the kids and I came here, and my job wasn't very cooperative. They didn't want me to take more time off, and I didn't feel comfortable leaving this child home alone. And they gave me 2 weeks to come back to the office, and I said goodbye. So a couple weeks later, I
Wow.
suggested that we buy some pigs and cows. And so yeah, that's what we're doing. So I run the farm. He works a real job.
Farming is a real job, though. Probably the realest.
It's a real job, but to be honest, I've never paid myself. So I pay employees. but there's always something that needs fixed or a fence that needs to be built or something. And so it's really a labor of love.
Mm.
Yeah, and of course you're doing things the right way, so that makes it extra hard, I suppose.
It does. But people that are new at this, they tend to jump in and they get every animal, especially after you've read Joel Salatin's books. You read it, and Joel's doing chickens, he's doing pigs, he's doing beef, he's doing everything. And you think, well, I
Yeah.
got stuff too. And I gave up chickens 3 or 4 years ago, and I started purchasing poultry and eggs from other farmers. That made my life a little easier. I got rid of the goats this year. We've used the goats mostly for clearing brush, but it's one less thing for me to do since I do most everything. I do the marketing. I take animals to the processor. I pick up meat. I manage farms. I have one part-time employee that's regular. I have a couple other people that they're kind of random. So,
They come and go.
come and go. Yeah. So yeah, it's really a lot of work, and it's funny because I've met a few people lately that I see them doing all the things I did, and I've tried to tell them you need to give up a few things. You don't need all this extra stuff. Focus on one thing and master it, and then if you feel comfortable and you've got the marketing down pat, then move on and add other things. But
Yeah, so it's probably more time consuming to try to manage more different animals at the farm.
it is, especially if you're actually rotating them. And so the pigs need to move every 5 to 7 days, ideally, when it's wet, and it's wet this week. They need to move more often. So tomorrow I'll be moving pigs. Goats will strip every leaf and all the bark off of everything if you keep them in a small area. And depending on the number of goats and the size of the area, you're moving goats every 3 to 7 days. It's
So,
tough.
you don't want them to be eating the bark?
Well, it depends. So if I'm running them through clear cut areas, if they eat the bark, they're killing saplings then I can run them over with a bush hog. And it's what the goats really do for me. They clear it so that I can see what's there. So I can get the bush hog in where there's small trees, or I can cut down larger trees and convert to pasture. Or in the case of the farm we bought last year, the perimeter fencing is barbed wire that's probably older than I am, and there's holes all over it. But it was clear cut around the barbed wire on both sides of it. And clear cut regrowth is terrible. It's thick, and it's lots of stuff with thorns like blackberries, and there's these green vines. We have kudzu. But if I run the goats through there, I only have to clear a path wide enough to get the goat fencing through, and the goats will strip everything down. And then it's easy to either get a bush hog through there safely or to cut down things that are in the way.
Well, goats are like very how do you say, very terrain. They can manage a lot of different terrains. It sounds like.
Oh yeah, goats are pretty amazing, but they're a little too smart sometimes.
Sometimes.
Yeah, they say if your fence can hold water, it'll hold goats.
Yeah, yeah. I want to ask you, well, I have many questions about the animals, but before I dive into that, can you tell me a bit about like your transition, adding the meat back into your diet? Like how did that go for you, and sort of like how was that healing process? How did that go for you um, while you were overseas, right? Oh, in Guatemala.
I was always going back and forth between being really careful with the wheat and not being careful. And at the time when I added the wheat back in, I was working a position, so I was filling in temporary positions in another overseas post, and so I didn't have my own kitchen, and I didn't have. It's harder to eat when you're at a restaurant. And I'm sure you know when you're eating at a restaurant, you have every ingredient, and so I ate a lot of things I shouldn't have. So when I added the meat back in, at that time I was eating the wheat. But after adding meat back in, when I got back home to Guatemala, that's when I started the paleo diet. And that's when I really saw a huge difference, because I had not only added the meat back in, but I kicked the wheat back out of my diet, and of course cut sugar. Because if you've looked at gluten-free diets, a lot of them have a lot of added sugar because you end up buying box mixes, which for me, I've always baked everything from scratch. And so a box mix is kind of against the rules of my household. But for gluten-free stuff, you buy the mixed flour, right? Or you buy a cookie mix because it's gluten-free and it's already got everything in there, because mixing your own flours at home is challenging. And so you find yourself eating a lot more sugar because you're eating more processed foods, because you're finding gluten-free items. It's just so easy to pick up things that I wouldn't
Yeah.
order pick up because they say gluten-free on them. So paleo makes you kick that stuff out because you've eliminated the sugar as well, and all the grains, really. So you're not even doing the rice flour or the other flours that you use to substitute for wheat.
Hmm. Yeah, I think paleo also cuts out dairy, right?
It does also
Is
cut
that
out
right?
dairy.
Oh,
Hmm.
interesting.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So with that transition into paleo, like did that resolve like most of your issues?
Yes, but I didn't stick to it. That's the problem.
Oh, okay. So it's like a more like an adherence problem.
It's a parents' problem, but I have to say, so that was back in maybe 2012 or 2013 when we did the paleo diet first time. And then when we came back to the US, it was 2014. And I believe it was 2016 when I first had food sensitivity tests done. And I had a
Hmm.
list of like 20 or 30 food items that I couldn't eat. And I eliminated all those things. And part of my problem, aside from it being hard to stick with, is losing weight, losing too much weight, not being able to stop losing the weight,
Hmm.
So I stuck with that really hard for about 3 months, and then I let it slip again. But this year, I really started feeling extra poor, brain fog, severe brain fog. Like I'd sit in front of my laptop, my eyes be rolling up in my head. Like I'd be
Oh
outside trying to
God.
work on the fence, and all I wanted to do is lay out in the grass and go to sleep. Um, it was hard, and so marketing suffered, and farm tasks suffered because I just couldn't make myself do it. I was taking naps, and I've never been a napper, and like daily I had to have a nap. Sometimes not one nap, but two naps, and it was not like me. So I finally I went to a functional medicine practitioner in North Carolina, and I got diagnosed with Hashimoto's and with SIBO. Right? So SIBO is small intestine bacterial overgrowth, which explains all the digestive problems I've had since I was 21.
Hmm.
So it's been 25 years
Oh
since
God. Yeah.
and I finally got the answer. For whatever reason, SIBO was never on my list of things when I was researching it. So since July, I have stuck very tightly to the no gluten. My doctor insists that I never eat gluten, like ever again. And it helps hearing that from a medical professional, because it's easy in your head to talk to yourself and be like, I can do this once in a while.
Hmm.
Because I'd find if I have gluten, like say once a week or once every other week, I don't really experience the symptoms. But when I have it 2 or 3 days in a row, the symptoms
Hmm.
are back.
Right. Yeah. There's like a delayed response,
Right. So it's
and it kind of accumulates.
very easy to talk yourself into, this isn't going to kill me. I can have it once, it won't kill me. But
Yeah. Oh, that sucks. I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
it sucks, but you know what? It's nice to have the answer and to know for certain that I got to stick to it. And interestingly, Hashimoto's and other autoimmune disorders are generally triggered by food sensitivities and
Hmm.
metabolism issues. So you have to have a genetic factor, but your food sensitivities and metabolic disorders are what triggers it and turns it on. So,
I see. I see. So have you considered like trying a carnivore protocol?
it's funny you ask. I tried that,
You
and I did.
tried?
I did. I was having a really bad week. My stomach was feeling really terrible. This was before my diagnosis, And I did 3 days of just meat, but by day 3, I'd have food in my mouth and I didn't even want to swallow it.
No.
And I felt good and I was hungry, but I just couldn't even make myself swallow it anymore. And I don't, it's bizarre. I don't know. I mean, I eat
Yeah.
meat like 3 times a day, most days, but I always have it with a fruit or vegetable,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I just find it more palatable. Although I felt really great the 3 days that I ate, I have to say.
Really?
Yeah.
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 By day 3, all the abdominal issues that had caused me to start doing that were gone.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was, yeah, it's like, I guess the variety of the diet is, well, there's probably no variety, very little variety in the carnivore diet, and that was, you kind of missed that.
Yeah, I did. I did. I don't know. I've got some weird food things, anyways. Like there's some days where I'm eating and I don't want to swallow. Like this morning, it was bothering me, and so I'm eating breakfast, and I'm sitting there with food in my mouth. I'm like, you gotta swallow it, you gotta eat. And so it's kind of the same thing that I experienced when I did carnivore for 3 days. So yeah, maybe it's related to carnivore, and maybe it's not.
Interesting.
Yeah.
We have the opposite problem. We like to overeat and just eat too much. So kind of jealous. Well, I mean, to hear that.
I sometimes I'd like to overeat, but
Yeah.
Yeah. That's funny.
But yeah, it's
So
interesting because you already eat meat, so it's like that's not really changing. It's just you're keeping, you were just excluding more stuff, but you continue to eat meat on the regular.
yes, oh yes, definitely. So, like I said, most days it's at least twice a day, usually 3 times a day that I eat meat.
Yeah.
It's a
yeah.
lot of when you can't have cereal, bagels, waffles, pancakes for breakfast. You're eating meat,
Meat.
and I have food sensitivity to eggs as well. My doctor told me I could
Oh.
in, but given I already had a food sensitivity to it, I can't eat them like every day. So
You notice, like, if you have eggs every day or consecutively, you notice symptoms.
yes, so,
Wow.
yeah. But it wasn't just eggs. There's a lot of stuff on my list, so it wasn't as
Yeah.
bad the time I did the food sensitivity test. The first time it was a lot of stuff. The second time it wasn't as bad.
Yeah, no, that really saddens me because I love eggs. Right now we're having 10 a day, and we're probably gonna be having more in the coming days.
That's a lot.
Yeah, we're gonna be picking up 384 eggs this weekend
That's a lot of
from
eggs.
that's that's a lot of eggs. Yeah, from a local farm that we just came in contact with. Um, they do the whole like regenerative agriculture practice, so we're really excited to try them, and they just have a surplus of eggs, so we're gonna be taking that from their hands.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
The eggs will pair perfectly with the ribeye you sent us. Thank you so
okay.
much for that. By the way,
Yeah.
yeah,
Thank you.
we we've
So,
only
oh, you're
tried
welcome.
the yeah we've only tried the was it the
Uh,
Asian sausage or
yeah.
the I forget, was it called Lao or was that another
Lao.
one? The
I might
spicy
have sent
one.
you the Lao is the spicy one.
Yeah, yeah. It was really good.
Really good.
Really, really good. Yeah.
Really good.
We took pictures, we filmed it. We'll be posting the meal at some point.
Yeah.
Just to stagger all the foods that we're gonna be eating from you.
Excellent.
But
Well,
yeah,
it's gonna,
yeah.
an idea for eating all those eggs is a Dutch baby. Have you ever had a Dutch baby?
A Dutch baby
It's
doesn't.
basically it's got flour in it, but you can make it with tapioca flour or cassava flour to make it grain free. but it's mostly
Hmm.
eggs. You can use milk or cream, a bit of butter. So basically, I put everything in the blender, and then I heat a cast iron pan and melt a few tablespoons of butter and pour the mix into the cast iron pan, and then pop it in the oven, and it bubbles up, and it's
Mm.
kind of like a big pancake, but
Ah,
yeah,
Some form of cake. Dutch
so
baby.
Dutch baby.
that's big. Top it with some yogurt and fruit, or or if you made it without sugar, top it with sausage and cheese or something.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Nice, nice. Yeah, we'll try that. We'll add it to our Butterfield recipes.
Yeah. We'll find a carnivore way to do it.
Yeah, would it work with pork rinds?
Pork rinds would be
Yeah,
good.
We'd have to try. We'd have to try.
yeah, yeah, as a substitute to the flour, but I guess the flour has its own properties that gives it bread-like
It would probably be good with pork rinds.
properties.
I've done it with flour and I've done it with cassava. I bet you could do it with the pork rinds. It doesn't have a lot of flour in it. It's mostly egg and cream
Hmm.
or milk. I liked it with cream, but it would be
Nice.
savory if with pork rinds.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll have to
Let
try
me know.
that.
Yeah, we'll have to try it.
Yeah. So you
Pork
guys both do
rinds.
Yeah, yeah, we're both doing carnivore. We're not well, we're pretty strict throughout the entire week, and then sometimes on the weekend we have like a little bit of fruit, so that I don't know what that qualifies as, because it's like once a week event. um yeah.
Yeah. We'll have like some fruit with some yogurt. Uh, maybe some honey. Depends on what we're craving. But uh, last week we had some like we bought a bar of like 100% chocolate, dark chocolate.
Yeah.
So we threw that in the mix, and yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. But for the most part, we're just eating like meat and eggs, dairy, seafood. That's pretty much it. Our issue is we're very hungry. So eating like very high protein just like keeps us full and satiated, and it's a system that works for us. And then we like to go to the gym and lift weights. So that all of that is very important. But moderating the sweets or the carbs, that's our weakness, right? So it's a very slippery slope. Whenever we like go off the rails,
Hmm.
uh, we just spiral downwards.
So
So
what made you guys decide to do carnivore?
uh, oh, my voice.
well, it was all my brother. So he's the older one, but he's always been like very forward thinking about just like nutrition and fitness. So he did like the whole keto thing for a long time. My brother, he was even like baking like coconut flour bread. He was
Yeah.
going pulling all the extra stops. But then I guess he heard about carnivore diet from Dr. Sean Baker. I don't know if you've heard about him, but he's like he
Have
wrote the book The Carnivore Diet, right? And he's like the leading figure of the carnivore diet movement. When he tried it, um, I guess he liked it because it's simple. He's a lazy guy, so when he heard you could only cook one thing, it was very very appealing. Because you're chopping the vegetables and making salad and that sort of thing like that's a lot of effort. um,
Yeah.
yeah, and interestingly, both of us, so then he told me about it. For like 2 years I didn't buy into it because I thought he was crazy.
Insane.
I'm like, you should probably eat like at least some celery sticks for your for your
For the fiber.
yeah, for your gut. um, but he got me on it in 2020, so 2 years ago. And now I've been doing it for 2 years. He's been doing it for 4 years now,
Yeah.
almost five.
Yeah.
um
It's gonna be 5 in April.
yeah, and honestly, like I think my life has just changed since I started it. So we both grew up having lots of respiratory issues, just going to the doctor. I thought it was like the norm. growing up. I'd go to the doctor, to the ENT, like every month, and we'd get like
Wow.
our prescription of antibiotics and all these other pills. I We both had respiratory issues growing up. I also had digestive issues, so I'd also be going to the just to the other doctor, and they'd give me like probiotics and all these things.
And it never worked, right? It was like,
Yeah, I remember I had acid reflux, and this was when I was a teenager. So I got an endoscopy, and the doctor, he was like, "Oh, it seems like you have some, like your esophagus is like burnt from the acid reflux. You just take this pill." And then my mother was like, "Doctor, can you tell him to stop drinking, because well, back home, right, the drinking age is different, is lower."
18, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but and I was in high school, so there was a lot of like going out and that sort of thing. The doctor was like, "No, he can still drink.
Oh,
Just
God.
take just take the pill, and it'll protect him." So I had all those issues, um, and since I did the keto thing for a while, I also struggled with like being overweight. So if I showed you like an old picture, I used to be like this big puffball. I was big.
Oh, no.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm just feeling great. I'm feeling better at 25 than I did, as a teenager, and I don't think I'm ever going back.
Yeah.
If anything, like if I ever add like any plant foods, it might be plant foods that maybe I grow at some point. I do want to get into like gardening and sort of like raising livestock, at least for like our own consumption, maybe not for like selling, that sort of thing.
Good. Yeah. I think more people need to understand what it takes to bring food to the table, and more people that do it, more people understand how your food
Yeah,
actually gets to your.
yeah, and
So,
that's a big issue, right? That you see nowadays, because everyone's just so disconnected
From nature.
from nature, just like nature overall, how we eat, how we're meant to live, how we're meant to eat. It's everyone has to eat, but everyone's so confused about what to eat. It's crazy, and
Yeah.
and
Which is interesting, right? Because we can live and thrive, and
She'd
just
expected.
for
Yes.
sorry. Audio
Oh, no.
popping up. No, I don't know what my phone has done. Does it here? Goodness.
no worries, no worries.
There we are.
transmission's been interrupted by a cat.
Ah, she's back. Here.
Nice.
She's a pain in the butt.
Likes the attention.
She's needy. She's extremely needy.
Yeah.
And she doesn't. Yes. There we have. What were you saying?
Yeah. People are confused about what to eat, because there's so much quote unquote food in the supermarket, but we only go to one section in the supermarket, and not only are we surviving, we're thriving, we're going to the gym, we have energy for all our things in life. um so which is why we like carnivore. And it wasn't through carnivore until I really appreciated animal foods. I realized, wow, my entire health is thanks to these animals. um I didn't grow up with that connection of really appreciating the farm work, and
Yeah.
yeah, animals basically.
Yeah, because then you start going down the rabbit hole, learning about how is the food made, and why is this food like bad for you, like worst foods ever, like ultra processed foods, right? And what makes these foods like so special, right? And you start learning about how they're made, and with that comes all the good, the bad, and the ugly of just like how the industry is set up currently, right? The how the incentives line up, that sort of thing. But in the journey, you start learning about the people doing things the right way, right? In the way that nature intended Uh,
Well,
Yeah.
you guys
yeah.
got less than I did. It took me 25 years.
Yeah, yeah. And you know, I think it's important to communicate that mission, and also, you know, part of what we want to set out to do is, you know, connect with farmers and, you know, get their insights and see how we can potentially use this platform to help them out, right? Because I think that you know, there's one, you know, just raising awareness, educating the consumer, because there's a lot of consumer misleading g- going around. You know, like first of all, you know, people are being told animal foods and animal fats are bad for you, and they're destroyer of worlds, right? They're bad for you, they're bad for the environment, like they're bad for the economy, they're bad for whatever. You know, just blame it on the cows, and that's not true. That's not true at all, right? If anything, this this is the way forward, and it seems to me like it's the only way forward, right? Like animals are going to play an essential role in just like, you know, replenishing the soil, fixing the environment, and that's not to pin animal foods against plant foods. You know, I just think the conventional plant foods you get in the supermarket today, you know, they have their host of issues as well. But I have nothing against, you know, getting some properly grown fruits or vegetables, right? And at some point I'd like to try. Do you, out of curiosity, do you grow any produce yourself?
Mm.
I have a garden. My thumb is not very green, so I don't sell it. But in fact, I just the tomatoes, I picked all the green tomatoes before the first frost, and so I just cooked the last of them and I roasted them and added them to beef soup last night. But yeah, I don't have a lot going on in the garden, but I have a little bit, and it's
Yeah, just for yourself.
just for us. Yeah, yeah. I did. It's just me doing the garden on top of everything else. So usually and it looks great the first couple months. By August, it's like a jungle in there.
Oh, nice. So I guess we can talk a bit now, like move on to the more like the farming aspect of what you do. Uh, so you mentioned you just had the first frost. How does, I've always been curious, how does that work? You know, like running the farm, raising the livestock through winter. Like, I mean, I
Mm.
assume, I don't know how the weather gets in Virginia, but I assume like you have pretty bad winters over there. You're
Uh,
not that far away from us.
the winters are it depends. So usually the first frost is late October, and that was probably the first frost was late October this year, and then it got warm again. It's been kind of weird. We've had
Hmm.
winters where we've had 18 inches of snow like at one time, and I remember it was so cold one winter that the well was frozen, and I actually went down to the stream to try and get water in buckets before it occurred to me to go to a neighbor's house and get filled tubs. But I splashed water from the stream on my insulated pants, and by the time I got back to the house, they were ice. My pants were completely ice. But
Oh my God.
this past winter, I think I got out my insulated pants like 3 times. It just wasn't that cold. Um, so it's kind of hit or miss. But the thing is with forages, so we're in the south, so
Mhm.
we have a lot of fescue, which is a cool season grass, and fescue stockpiles very well. So back when that frost hits, the crabgrass, which is a summer season, the warm season grass, and there's a few
Mhm.
other grass that they all just they go brown right after that first frost. But
Yeah.
the frost is actually good for it because fescue is infected with an endophyte, which is not that great for the cows. Cows kind of have to evolve to be able to digest it properly.
Mm.
So it's actually better for the cows after a frost, but it stockpiles really well. So I actually have, let's see, in this farm, I just have animals that are going for beef and cows that we're not going to breed again on this farm. And I still have, let's see, 2 paddocks left, about maybe 2 weeks left of grass here on this farm before I got to put hay out. There's a farm we rent, which only has a handful of animals on it, and usually I can get through till February before I got to put hay out there. And let's see, the farm that we just bought last year, that's about 100 acres of pasture, and
Nice.
We're working on running water, so I can't rotate very easily there because we don't have water everywhere, and it's a long, narrow pasture and short of hauling water on a hay wagon. But for the number of cows we've got, that's not very practical. So I've got paddocks there right now, and the paddock they're in is about 30 acres. There's still grass in that paddock. There's another paddock that's all fescue. It's about 12 acres. It's about 18 inches, 2 feet tall, just fescue. And there's one other paddock that they haven't grazed yet that's got a little bit of fescue and a little bit of warm season. So I'll put them in there to clean that one up first. But once I get water set up and all the fences up, I'll be able to rotate a little better. And it'll be a little bit more efficient, and it'll actually feed more cows, support more, sustain more animals, more cattle.
Yeah, and the water's for the cattle to drink.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not for watering the pasture,
No.
right? No,
No.
okay. Yeah, you don't. That doesn't happen.
Well, it's interesting because around here we tend to have pretty dry summers, but if you rotate, so for example, on the home farm I have 23 paddocks, I think, and if you rotate carefully, your grass actually grows back. But most of my neighbors do not rotate, and there's a couple farms where the grass is shorter than the golf course, and there's every once in a while cows just won't eat, stick it up, but there's like nothing there.
Mm-hmm.
But
Wow.
if you give time to recover, it comes back even healthier, and you can graze more animals because you're taking care of it.
Wow.
But it's so fascinating to me how many people still refuse to actually rotate their animals.
Yeah, that's true. It sounds like it's easier and just overall, more beneficial, and
And it makes your land more resilient, right?
yeah.
So that sounds pretty good to me. So why do you think people resist that? People resist that practice.
Because it's easier to have them in one pasture and you don't have to do anything. All you got to do is make sure they have water and repair the fence when it has a hole in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and then
Move them, and then I have to assess when they need to move again, make sure
Mhm.
they're not overgrazing it or not undergrazing it, and move them again. But I think everybody on my street, the street's about 6 miles long, everybody's putting out hay right now, but we haven't put out any hay.
Nice. I'm guessing that's a good sign.
For me,
Well, obviously. Yeah.
hay is expensive and it's time consuming because it takes more time to put out hay than it does for me to rotate to another pasture. So
Oh, there you go.
Huh.
There you go. So you can tell when you can look at the grass and you can tell how this is overgrazed, or this is undergrazed, or this is just about time.
yep.
Wow.
And so the
Wow.
other, I tend to have more patches that are undergrazed and overgrazed because they'll overgraze their favorite forages and undergraze their less favorite if they're in a big area. And so it's a little bit more challenging until I get that water run, and then I'll be able to forage smaller areas and make them graze everything. So I'm looking forward to that. So hopefully by next spring. COVID's messed things up. I haven't been able to find the pipe to run the water. I've had it on order from 3 different places, and nobody's gotten it in. It's just a mess.
Oh man,
Wow.
that's crazy. We're still seeing the backlash from 2 years ago.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not good. So how's that been for you, by the way? Like the past 2 years.
It's been a roller coaster. So when COVID first hit, we had all kinds of new customers that bought lots of meat, and we actually sold out. I worked with another farmer who all his customers were restaurants, so restaurants were closed, so he had extra beef. So I bought some of his cows to fill the gap on my side. And so the first year sales were like 250% over what they were the year before. So sales of like $42,000 to 102 or 105, can't remember. Last year sales increased, but only by about $2,000. Things leveled off, and this year's been better. I'd say our sales are up probably about 20% this year, which is a good thing. Back.
Yeah, it's great to hear.
So sales have been good this year. I hope it continues that way. But with inflation, people are being so much more careful about where they're spending their money, and it's easy to look at quality food as a luxury.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I like that there's growing awareness, and I also like that it was a positive opportunity for you. It sounds like people are well, not everyone, right, but little by little, people are kind of waking up to what real food is, and you could say it made people appreciate food, especially real food from farmers.
Yeah. So are most of your sales from selling online or locally?
Most online. Local
Mhm.
sales are kind of hit or miss. I have a little store on the farm here. We're open 3 days a week. When it rains, people don't come. They do not come when it rains. And it's been raining all week, so nobody's come by the last few times we've been open. December's always a slow month too. Between Thanksgiving and Christmas, sales take a dive. People, again, they stop buying luxury items for themselves as they purchase gifts for other people. They
Mm.
spice that healthy food to spend it on gifts for other people, which is
Yeah.
always curious. And then after New Year's, sales they go back up.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
Excellent.
we go back up in January. So local sales, it's hit or miss. I have a handful of very local or very loyal local customers, but some of them, they're singles or just a couple, and they'll come and they'll buy $300 or $400 worth of meat, and I don't see them for 3 months. So yeah, and then it's funny because they'll all show up the same week. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's very sporadic. So you have
Mhm.
like your high spikes of volume and then
Yes.
quiet periods.
Yep.
Interesting. It's like everyone's on the same eating schedule,
So
or
that is curious. So it is what it is. As long as sales keep growing. So
Yeah, let's hope so. Let's hope so. So, what year did you say you started at the farm?
fall of 2014, we bought breeding stock.
2014.
Have anything to sell? It was 2016 before we really had anything to sell.
Mm-hmm. And from the start, did you already have like the in mind, like doing the rotating the cattle through the pastures,
Oh
and
yeah.
and did you also have in mind that you wanted to sell meat, and why not go with, like, I don't know, like dairy?
We actually did cow shares for a while. I
Mm.
don't know if you're out with raw milk. Raw milk is one of those things that's been incredibly demonized, even though it's
Yeah,
extremely healthy and way better for you than the ultra processed milk, which is full of dead things because they kill everything.
absolutely.
Yeah, so we actually did that for about a year and a half. But most of our customers were out of town where my husband works, and it was once a week transport. It was kind of a big deal, and it was a little bit of a hassle because I was
Mhm.
travel every weekend to deliver milk. And so in the end, we discontinued that, and every once in a while, I have a cow that needs milking. I was milking once a week because when she calved, she had some mastitis, so I had to milk her. But you don't really want to drink the mastitis milk. So, yeah.
That doesn't sound good. Yeah.
No,
All right. Do you have a sensitivity to dairy?
I know. Was tested for that. My doctor insists I can eat dairy, and I don't consume dairy every day, but I do love some cheese, some aged cheddar or some goat cheese.
Yeah. Oh, amazing.
yeah.
So, what were some of the challenges you faced when you were starting out with your farm operation?
Oh man, pigs are challenging. Pigs, uh, when we first started, they were always getting out, and figuring out how to get the fence the electric fence hot enough to keep them in,
Hmm.
because you don't want to chase a pig. Yeah, putting up perimeter fence made that easier, so that now, knowing that I have perimeter fence, if the pig gets loose, I'm like, leave it at dinner time, they'll come back. And the pig's always back when the next meal is served. And they're very happy to get back in.
Oh, okay.
Keeping pigs in, but the hardest thing, I spent a lot of time converting clear cut to pasture, and that's tough. There's a lot of labor that goes into that. Time with the tractor, time by hand cutting down trees,
Yeah.
burning piles of brush.
You were doing that yourself too, like just like felling the trees and everything.
Yeah, making the kids help. Kids didn't appreciate that.
Wow. Yeah. What a great experience. The
Yeah, but besides that, marketing
marketing.
extremely difficult, and I think if you talk to just about any beginning farmer, most of them are going to tell you that marketing is the hardest thing. Making
Mm.
sales to pay not only the employee that you need to keep going, but to pay yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I have not achieved the paying myself yet. But that's partly because we bought another farm and the fences are falling down and it costs a lot to put up fence.
Yeah.
About 100 acres. So, and then
100 acres.
It's a lot of potential.
that's 100 acres on the second farm. It's 152 acres total, but a lot of it was clear cut. And this farm is 105 acres. But
Wow.
it is that our daughter wrecked the tractor twice this summer. So when you're putting out thousands of dollars to fix the tractor,
Yeah. Oh my God. It's like like 1,000 cuts. Just.
yeah. So, but it has to be fixed, or you can't do, fence. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm optimistic.
Yeah.
Of course.
People appreciate what I do. People email me or tell me in person all the time they appreciate what I do, that they love the meat, and or they tell me their stories why they eat the way they do. I have lots of customers that are carnivore or keto,
Yeah.
or they can't eat gluten, they can't eat this, that, or the other, and they're being very careful what they eat, and they appreciate that that I understand that, and B, that I'm raising a product that doesn't make them sick.
Yeah. 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 Um. So fencing and marketing. You say those are like the two main uh, challenges you face still to today. Then.
Yeah, I'm hoping to get the bulk of the fencing done in the next 6 months. I have a grant
Yeah.
that some of it, but I just need somebody to help me put up fence posts. And then we had a house fire. There was
Oh
the
God.
lot has a little house on it, and 2 weeks after we closed, there was an electrical fire.
Wow.
And so yeah, we just started demolition this week, so that'll take up a lot of time.
Interesting.
That's crazy. Sounds like a lot is going on.
There's always something on a farm. It's nice when you get all the emergency stuff done. Take some time and get away.
Mhm.
But there's really always something that needs doing.
Yeah.
Never a dull moment.
Never.
And so so you have in your main farm you say you have 100 acres, and then in the other one you're gonna have 152.
152, and then there's another one we rent where it's 42 acres of pasture. But I think we're losing that lease this year.
Huh.
Hmm.
So what you're looking at, like what, roughly like 300 acres total?
Yeah, it is about 300 acres.
Wow, that's a lot of land. And how many animals do you have? Like,
I have to head count on cows. There's 60 to 70 head of cattle right now, and that includes close to ready to beef down to we have
mhm.
calves born in the last 2 weeks.
Hmm.
Um,
How many could you fit on all that land?
that's a good question, and I kept the farm that we rent this year because I wasn't sure how many animals the new farm would support. But I think that we'll be okay without the rental this upcoming year. So yeah, 70 head. It depends too on rain situation.
Hmm.
We don't get enough rain, then it hurts in the wintertime because you're feeding the hay earlier.
I
Yeah,
see.
yeah,
Yeah, water's so key.
yeah.
And yeah, that's something you cannot control.
Water's key, but I find that if you manage your pasture and don't overgraze them, you're not in the same dire straits as everybody else is, because your pasture, when it does get some rain, it will come back. Whereas pasture that's grazed to this short, it's not going to come back. And
Ah,
so I've watched my neighbors on, sometimes they're putting out hay in August or September, and I've still got grass because I'm managing my grass and I'm making sure I don't have too many animals.
wow.
Um,
So it's like it's evident that putting that little bit of effort, it's gonna take you longer, um, and it protects you from droughts as well. So it sounds like a clear cut
Yeah, and it
no
cuts
brainer.
the costs,
And it
right?
costs the
'Cause-
cost. Yeah.
yeah,
But you'd be surprised. I mean, you've heard of like no-till farming for crops too, right?
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
It's supposed to be the in thing. It prevents erosion. It does this, that, and the other. And not tilling actually supports microbial life because it doesn't destroy the entire habitat where the soil microbes live. But
Yeah.
around here, there's very few farmers doing no-till, and I just don't get it. Everybody's pushing this plant-based diet, but why don't we push the farmers to grow your plant-based stuff in a regenerative fashion so that you can have your plant-based diet? Because when there's no topsoil left, I don't know where you're going to grow your plants.
Oh, yeah. That's an excellent point, right?
Yeah.
It's like,
You'll have to bring in the animals.
and you still need the animals.
And you still need the animals. In fact, Rob Wolf on his podcast talking about, I think with James Cameron, film director,
Oh,
producer, he he bought a farm in New Zealand and he wanted it to be all no animal stuff on. He wanted to do it regeneratively, and he found that he had to bring animals back onto the land to fertilize it and make the soil healthy again.
the irony.
I mean,
He wanted to do an organic farm with the idea of promoting a plant-based diet, but what he found was that you have to bring the animals on to do the regenerative agriculture.
I mean, nature is gonna teach you, right? You can't go against nature. She's gonna teach you, because it sounds crazy, right? But looking at the situation, you can say, duh, you need animals, of course. It's all part of the ecosystem, duh. But you have like multimillionaires here thinking they can outsmart nature, uh, being taught that no, you can't. Um, yeah,
Yeah,
people need to realize this.
yeah, and I've read that even if they're not like even if they're not using animals, like they're still need fertilizer, and like they'll supplement their soils with things like fish meal and like bone meal and that sort of thing with blood meal, I think.
Mm,
They'll add these things which come from animals themselves too. So it's like if you're being vegan because of the animal cruelty or for whatever reason, there's there's it's still supporting that ecosystem in a way, I suppose.
Yep, you still have to
Yeah.
have the animals to have agriculture. You
yeah,
really
it's not,
can't do it without them.
Yeah, Amy, how are you doing on time? I know we're nearing the hour. I mean, we can go on, but I just if you have to go,
I'm okay. I'm actually home alone tonight.
you're okay.
bangs on my door, I will have to get it. I have some guys repairing my walk-in freezer. Although they seem to think they wouldn't finish till like 11. So
Oh God.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Walk-in freezer. Yeah. So I guess, infrastructure that you need when you're running the farming operation for meat, things like the tractors, walk-in freezers, all of that must be like a big capital investment, right?
Mm.
it really is. You don't even want to know what it's costing to get that walk-in freezer running properly. So,
Yeah. What are some of the biggest costs like that you face, when you're starting out, or just at any point?
buying those things, like just the cost to buy the walk-in freezer. I bought a used one that it sits outside. It's made of fiberglass and it's just 8 foot by 8 foot on the exterior. It's not real big, but you dish out thousands of dollars to buy the thing, and then you pay somebody $1,500 to hook it up and get it right. And
Right.
out 2 years later that it needs an entire overhaul, which costs more than the darn thing costed.
Wow.
But we have so many freezers. We have a freezer trailer too. It's a giant freezer that sits on a trailer bed, and that's it's both my backup, and I use it for deliveries, and I use it to pick up meat. The tractor, buying a new tractor that's big enough to pick up hay bales, that's quite the expense. I have a utility vehicle. It's called an RTV. It's kind of like a souped up golf cart, but
Oh yeah, I think I know what those look like.
yeah, you got to have one of those. Otherwise, when that's broken down, I'm driving my truck out there feeding pigs.
Oh God.
Those are the big expenses.
Yeah.
Farm insurance isn't cheap because we make cottages. It's a little higher. So that's another expense people don't think about. Electricity to run all those freezers.
Yeah.
It
That's
adds
gonna
up.
that's gonna really add up. I can
It
imagine a big freezer. Yeah,
does.
because in my mind, one of the questions I always have is, well, there's clearly, there's many problems in the food industry, but one of the problems is, uh, the average age of like farmers is increasing, and it seems like it's gonna come to a point where it's gonna be a big shrink in the number of farmers, or there has been a big number of farmers shrinking in the past decades. So clearly, we need more farmers, right? We need more people like undertaking these challenges, but it always seems like it's not a lucrative industry. It's not very profitable. It's very labor intensive and very capital cost intensive, because you need all these parts and pieces that go along with the operation.
And
So
it's time intensive, and people don't realize how much time and energy, in addition to the money, there is that goes into starting a farm. Especially if you didn't inherit the land, you didn't inherit
mhm,
fence, you didn't inherit some animals. I mean, you're at a disadvantage. But what I'm seeing is that as these farmers, pass away, the land goes for sale at an auction sometimes. It gets purchased by timber companies, and if it's wooded, the timber company takes all the wood and leaves it. So this property was being clear cut when we bought it, and we had no idea what that entailed. I mean, it looks like a desert the first year with
Mm.
tracks. There's so much damage from the equipment, and then what grows back is a mess. It's really, really ugly to watch. And sometimes they replant it and sometimes they don't. They just leave it. But the new thing here is solar farms. So on my street, there's 700 acres of solar panels going up. And there's, I think, 6 places in my county where similarly sized, maybe bigger solar farms are going up. And that was all farmland. It was either woods that were clear cut or it was farmland, and they're putting solar panels up.
Wow. So farmers are getting replaced either by timber companies or by solar farms.
Solar farms and Christmas tree farms. So if you go out west of me, in the western part of Virginia, what is clearly old cattle pasture because you can see the old fence lines everywhere. It's full of Christmas trees. And
My God.
the interesting thing is that a lot of those are exported to Europe.
They're sent to Europe.
Really?
A lot of them are sent to Europe. They're exported to Europe. So it's
How does that make any sense?
yeah. And so these companies come in and they rent farmland. And you've got a farmer that wants to retire or needs to retire because he can't do the cows anymore. He can't do the hills. And these people come in and they plant Christmas trees. And it's a huge thing. I mean, I don't know how many acres it is, but when you're driving out there, you see thousands of acres. And it's all rows of Christmas trees.
Christmas trees.
Trees are a luxury. Eating is not. So I don't know. It's a little bit.
Who would have thought Christmas trees? That's the first time I hear about that.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
You wouldn't know unless you drive through there, but there's not many people living in western part. Yeah.
Yeah.
Projects are huge. The county north of me, Charlotte County, there were supposed to have been like 25,000 acres of solar panels going up in that county. And I don't know how many acres it's going to be in the end, but it was the original plan. It was 6 or 7% of the land in that county. And that's a lot. That's a lot. And you think about climate change and all the trees you're losing, because trees help to mitigate climate change. They cool things. They sequester carbon and they don't get hot. They keep the earth cool,
Mm-hmm.
Hills are black, and I suspect that they're going to create some heat.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, because when they put the solar panels, that land is only for one purpose. I think I heard what's his name? The guy from White Oak Pastures.
Well, Harris.
Yeah, Will Harris. Yeah, talking about how he collaborated with like a solar farm to get his animals to like graze on that land as well. But I'm not sure how that works or how that would look like.
Well, it's really only sheep. Goats would be destructive. Goats will chew the crap out of that. Right. Cows rub on everything and they would tear up the panels unless the panels were high enough to be above cattle and the posts were sturdy enough to take a bull rubbing on them. Cattle are not suitable. There's somebody, I think, in Colorado that was experimenting with growing crops between them, and they actually were having great success, and their crops were doing better. So they planted crops that benefited from shade part of the day, and they actually found crops were performing very well under those. Yeah. And I think in Europe, they're doing more of that, planting crops between them. But in the U.S., we're just, I don't know, we have this agenda, and the agenda is simply put solar panels in and, no concern for, the loss of that land and food raising capacity or anything else.
Yeah, just pat yourself on the back and then forget about it.
Exactly.
That's such a shame. Yeah, but in terms of like moving forward for the industry, I'm curious, like, if a farmer wants to start it out, like what is like a good suggestion for them in order to like have a profitable business, as far as like a business model. Like, have you found that selling the meat in, I know some people focus on like selling in bulk versus selling like specialty cuts, that sort of thing. So people focus selling online or just like having their local store or finding or selling to restaurants. What is your perspective on that? And yeah, and I guess there's this whole thing also of like people are now consuming like the organ meats,
Yeah.
right? So I guess that's like another additional line of revenue for the farmers, I suppose.
Yeah, I've always sold all the organ meat, but I think that what I would tell a starting farmer or somebody who wanted to start farming, and I tell people this all the time, they don't listen. Sell somebody else's meat. Contact a farmer. Ask them, can I help you sell your beef? Can I help you sell your pork? And start that way to see if you can handle the marketing and grow a customer base. Because you next to no investment, maybe a freezer or some shipping materials, but you don't have to buy livestock, you don't have to buy land, and you can start developing your customer base. Or if you insist on starting with the land and the animals, still start selling somebody else's meat while you wait for your animals to be ready to process. Learning the marketing is hands down been the hardest thing for me, and I think probably for most farmers. Like I where I live, the farmers markets, they're not worth it. If I make $150 at a farmer's market and my profit margin is 30%, and I spent 4 hours at the market, an hour packing, 20 minutes driving there, 20 minutes driving back, and an hour unpacking, it wasn't worth my time. Oh, here's my son. So yeah. Oh, I'm not a call buddy. So, yeah, so if you live in your big city and you have access to a great farmer's market, yeah, you probably have a pretty good place to sell, and you're going to sell a lot. And that's a good starting point. But I am 2 hours from a major city, and since I only see my husband on weekends, selling at a farmer's market really isn't an option for us. It would mean I don't see my husband. So since I went to see him, we don't do farmers markets. But online, it takes time to build a following. People have to find you. You have to be on social media. You have to be, you have to push.
Yeah.
People don't just find you because you created a website. You have to actively promote it. You have to find backlinks, find partners like you guys, help promote it, and it's work. And you have to be comfortable going to people and asking, would you like to partner with me? Would you help me out?
Yeah.
That's an interesting approach about, you could start anytime, have your own freezer, and then basically hold the meat, hold the beef or whatever, and then just start marketing it online before even starting buying the whole land.
Yeah, I had never heard that before.
Yeah.
Better yet, you almost don't even need to have a freezer. If you pre-sell in bulk, if you sell eighths, quarters, halves, wholes, you almost don't even need a freezer. You could pick it up from the processor and deliver it immediately or ship it immediately. And you don't even have to have that other equipment. So
Fascinating.
not even storing it, not even holding it. So, and it's a
Yeah.
win for the farmer because now the farmer's moving more product. And it's a win for you because you discover whether or not you actually want to do the marketing.
Yeah. No, that's pretty cool. First time I'm ever thinking about something like this.
Yeah, that's like a brand new idea that I've heard, and
Makes sense.
I'd like to think more about that. I mean, go on, continue. I'd like to hear more. I mean, yeah, pre-sell the livestock
Yeah.
so that so I guess you can just hold the livestock on your land. Once it's like fully booked, you can just process it and take it from there, just distribute it like that.
Right. So what I'm doing is I opened a bulk beef sale back in September, and it's going to close at New Year's. And so I built it up for a few weeks before I opened it so that people were anticipating it. And the processing dates were at the time that the sale will be open. So people make a deposit. And when their beef goes to the processor and I bring it home and I have the final weight, I bill them for the final weight and I deliver or ship it to them. So it's kind of cool because I'm not holding on to that meat. It leaves, and it's a guaranteed sale, and I'm not storing it. So yeah, but it's pretty easy to replicate. So I can go to Farmer Joe over here and say, hey, let me help you sell one of your cows because I don't have enough. And I've done that several times. I've purchased other people's animals, but if you don't have a farm yet, that's where I recommend you start with marketing and build your email lists, build your social media, and then when you're ready to start building your farm, you already have an audience who's watching you build those fences. They're watching you buy pigs, and they're ready to buy when you have your own animals.
Yeah, you've built a relationship. People have seen you grow. So that, yeah, you build like a loyal customer base like that.
Yes. Yes.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe we should get into that. You
Maybe
know,
you should.
selling other people's meat. I never thought about that.
We'll start phone calling a lot of farmers tomorrow morning.
Well, and you've already got an audience, so
Yeah, yeah. Because remember, I told you one of the nearest grass-fed, like one of the nearest like grass-fed, grass-finished farms to us here where we live. They raise like Highland cattle. Uh, I tried buying from them, but it was like very hard. Like to this day, like I haven't been able to buy meat from them because that remember the what were they called, like the Sealand Meadows, something like that.
Yeah.
They say, oh, you can buy the meat at the farmers market on Saturdays. I showed up, they weren't there. I'm like, hey, I have this page, I'd love to visit. They're like, oh, I can't be there. I think we lost Amy. Oh,
so yeah, that's a problem. Because farmers, a lot of us have a full-time job and family obligations, and so in this case, your farmer probably only does the business end of it at farmers markets. They don't want to deal with it any other day of the week. And
mhm.
heard this from other people who they're surprised that I emailed them back immediately or answered their questions and answered them thoroughly. They're like, wow, I've emailed 5 other people and it was like pulling teeth to get any information. And they're grateful that I actually answer them. So yeah. It matters. Like
Yeah,
people's questions is part of
yeah, yeah. That's something to give thought to.
Yeah. I'm wondering if you have to start knocking on their doors, go in person instead of emailing. Maybe that's bound to be more effective.
Yeah, offer a hand building the fences and with their marketing.
Yeah.
yeah. Well, there's another thought too. Offering to help your farmer out in exchange for meat if you can't afford it. And I do have people that come in and they're like, wow, I can't afford your product. You can always come help me build fence or do some other work, and I'm happy to trade.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. We have to go back to the old ways.
Yeah, trade time for food.
It's win-win, I get stuff removed from my freezer, you get the food you want, and I get help, and everybody gets what they want. So
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that economic trade.
yeah, I traded for a bunch of work on my truck just a couple weeks ago. So
Oh my God.
for me.
Yeah. So you sell beef, you sell pork.
Beef and pork. We kind of stopped carrying poultry this year. I have a few poultry cuts that are left over from last year that are on sale half price. A few cuts of lamb because I got rid of my sheep last year to make my life easier. I'm still debating whether or not I want to work with another farmer this year for lamb. If I do, it'll probably be pre-sale. You got to buy a whole or half lamb, and that'll be that. Make my life easier. So that way, I just drop them off the processor, pick them up, and ship them.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you wholesale pigs?
I don't really do much wholesale, but I'll sell a whole hog if somebody asks me about it. I have half hogs on the website right now,
Oh,
but
cool.
I'm moving away from pork. So once I've sold all the pigs I've got, I am going to source pork from another farmer again to make my life a little bit easier.
Yeah. So
So
you want to like dial in on the beef? Is that why, or?
the beef always sells better. I'm not very good at calculating how many pigs I need, so I just have more pigs than I need or fewer pigs than I need. And you're feeding them if you got too many, So, and people aren't willing to pay as much for pork. Because pork is so cheap in the grocery store,
Yeah.
they pork to be significantly cheaper than beef. Even though I'm raising it on pasture or in woods and using non-GMO feed, which costs significantly more than your traditional feed.
Yes.
Yeah.
High quality pork. Very high quality.
It is, and people just aren't willing to pay that much money, or they don't eat as much pork. I don't think. Yeah, that's the other thing.
Mm.
Just don't sell as much pork as we do beef.
Yeah, I'll have to check out the price of the half pig, half hog on your website.
Yeah, we've got one on there now it's already a pre-packed half hog. It's just a few cuts like pork chops, tenderloin, shoulders, a bunch of sausages, and smoked bacon.
Nice.
Yeah.
So yeah, we got some pork loin. I can't wait to try it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So so you did away with the chickens. You did away with the goats, and the sheep. Can you tell us a bit about that? Like, what were the issues you were facing? How does it make your life easier? And why you're doubling down on beef?
Issues. Goats and sheep generally are offspring in the cooler weather, and you want to have your babies in the cooler weather with goats because they get this thing called coccidia. It's a parasite, and coccidia does not thrive when it's cold. So you have a higher survival rate with baby goats when you have them in the winter or the cooler weather. But it means that I'm out there checking on them before I go to bed in the middle of the night, first thing in the morning in the dark at like 4, all
Wow.
day long. And it means that it's hard to get away because my husband actually lives in another city, so we see each other on weekends. So it's hard to get away and see my husband when everybody's having babies. It's hard to take a trip. It's just hard. And so when it's just me doing it, it's a lot of time. The sheep are pretty much independent. The only time I've ever had problems with the sheep delivering was when we had those ice storms a couple years ago. We had some severe ice storms, and the ground was frozen, and it was raining, and so water was just standing on top of frozen ground. And I think we lost 6 lambs, and we've never lost a lamb to weather before. And our sheep don't have shelters; they won't use them. When they have shelters out there, they won't go in them. Or they wouldn't. We don't have them anymore. But so it's just basically it makes my life easier not having all those animals to take care of, particularly when they're having babies. We didn't sell a lot of goat meat, so usually I sold kids, and that was how the goats paid for themselves, selling a handful of kids every year.
Hmm.
A little bit of goat meat, but not much.
Yeah, yeah. I guess goat isn't really a popular meat in the U.S.
True.
But usually it's ethnic groups
Hmm.
buys them for Eid because they do a sacrifice, but they want a whole animal and they want it intact. So they want intact males, and keeping a whole bunch of intact male goats. Let's just say there's a reason why.
Is that is that legal?
Oh yeah. Yes. So the way it's called halal,
Right.
yeah, it's legal.
Yeah,
And
because I know that one of the issues of the industry is just like the amount of regulation there is with, like, USDA processing facilities, and how it's like a bottleneck for lots of farmers.
it is. And
So
so when I whole animals, I would actually. I had one guy that would come and he would buy a group of lambs or goats for his uh, community, and he had 2 acres and a barn, and his people would come to his place and slaughter them and make their sacrifice. I have let people come here to the farm. I'm not doing that anymore, but I used to do that a lot. I let people pay me for the animal and then let them rent my kitchen, and they dispatch their animal here.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting, and big believer in supporting everybody. Everybody has to eat, and I leave religion and politics out of the business. Uh, yeah, they're looking for good food too. Everybody,
yeah, yeah,
and I can admire that.
yeah. That's pretty interesting. And I'm just wondering because thinking of the bottleneck, and because it's an issue that I always hear come up what ways can we find to circumvent, the government from me getting access to meat? Because one of the other farms I reached out to, a different one. I was like, hey, like, do you process on your farm? I didn't know about the regulation that everything has to be through the processing facility, and they were like, no, we no one will sell you meat from their farm. It has to go through the processing facility. um,
Right.
and
Yeah.
it just seems like one of those issues that we have to, like, come together and solve, if we want to help the industry of farmers who are doing things right, thrive.
It's interesting. You have different levels of inspection. So there is the USDA processor. So if I want to sell by the cut, it has to be USDA processed. And if I want to make sausage in my store, it has to be killed by USDA inspected processor. So I still have to take it to that processor and have it killed, and I can bring the whole hog home and butcher it myself then. But my inspection doesn't allow me to sell wholesale. So if you wanted to buy the entire pig, I wouldn't be allowed to, because I can only sell you a quarter of the pig according to the regulations or something like that. I'm not allowed to sell you an entire animal that I processed. There's some super silly rules that I'm not sure why it matters if you buy a quarter of an animal from me or a whole animal from me if I'm cutting it up. But there's also custom processors where I can drop an animal off and he's not USDA inspected. I can pre-sell the animal and have him process it. So I have my custom processor now has one animal. They actually came to the farm and shot because we couldn't get her into the corral to catch her. So he came and shot her on the farm and took her away. And I have a customer that's buying the whole animal. But he can't sell wholesale either. So he can sell things in his store by the cut, but he can't sell wholesale. And I can't resell the cuts that he processes for me. So I have to pre-sell it all. So yeah, it's very complicated. And with COVID, it became very difficult to get processing appointments because at the time, there's a surge in interest in buying from farms because of shortages. And so more animals. And then you had the factory farmed pigs that were being dumped for pennies on the pound, and we're buying pigs for $5. And so farmers like me, I didn't do it, but other farmers like me were buying pigs and selling them because they could get pigs for $5 and finish them on the cheap. So all the appointments went to service these things, and so it continues to be difficult to get appointments. It seems to be easing up a little bit, but one of my processors just sent me an email telling me to schedule for 2024. We haven't even hit 2023 yet, and we're already scheduling out for 2024, and I got a plan for 2024.
Oh my God.
And USDA makes it very difficult to open a new USDA inspected processing.
Yeah, that's crazy. Like, it just sounds like such an inefficient system, and we need to figure out a way to make it work or find some loophole. I just feel so. So now I'm wondering about, like, the idea of going to the farm and, like, slaughtering the animal yourself and then taking it. How feasible would that be?
There are farms that do it, and there was another guy up the road from me that used to offer a butchering class. So he'd pre-sell you a pig. He'd pre-sell
Oh
you,
wow.
and he'd feed it out. And when it was ready, he would teach you to butcher it. So he'd bring you to the farm, and so you do the butchering, and he'd teach you. And because he wasn't doing it, was legal, so somebody else to do it. And so he worked around the system that way. But there's interesting ways to do it, and talk to a local farmer. A lot of people are willing to work with you, or if you have space, to do it in your garage. It's perfect weather right now. If they'll let you shoot an animal on their property and gut it on their property, and you bring it home and cut it up.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't be opposed if, I mean, like, if that helps me get, like, a whole animal and circumvent the government. I wouldn't be opposed to like doing it myself. And you know, I've never done it. I've never done anything like that. But I feel like it would be like a rite of passage and paying my respects. And I'm sure like it would be hard for me to do it at least the first time or the first few times. But you know, I'd be getting a few 100 pounds of meat. You know, depending on the animal, whether it's a hog or a whole cow. But that's an interesting concept uh, that I've never heard of before. You know, the butchering class or things like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's lots of ways to get around it being expensive too. Occasionally, you know, I have an animal that needs to be put down, and sometimes it's like a pig with a broken leg that's too big to pick up, and the same processor, the custom processor, he'll come to the farm and shoot the animal, but I can't sell the cuts, and in that case, I haven't pre-sold it. So then I'm calling around, and you know, I'm usually calling my dog food customers, but it's perfectly good pork, you know, other than the leg that was broken, which would get disposed of because it'll be bruised.
Mm-hmm.
there are there are ways, if you discuss with your farmer, to get meat at a discount, because I don't want to take time to bury the pig, and I don't like to throw it away. I feel like it's
Yeah,
not an animal to shoot her and leave her out on the back 80, you know.
yeah,
If I call my guy, he's out there as soon as he can, usually within an hour or two, and he takes care of the animal and, you know, takes it away. But so then finding a buyer at the last minute, you know.
yeah, yeah.
When I do that, I offer it. I say you pay the processing and you pick it up from the processor, and it's yours. I don't charge you for the meat. You just pay the processing fee. Usually, I can find somebody that'll take me up on it. But win-win for everybody that way.
Yeah, yeah. Can't let it go to waste.
Yeah.
That's yeah. Now you got me thinking. I'll have to ruminate on these ideas.
There are lots of ideas, and again, comes back to building that relationship with your farmer. So you
Yeah,
talk to them and you introduce these ideas, and hey, if this ever happens, I'd like to take that off your hands, or you know.
yeah, yeah. I was telling our local farmer. Well, she would sell us duck eggs and raw goat's milk, but now she had one milking goat, and she cut us off now because she had to put a baby in the goat.
Oh
I
yeah,
guess, yeah, right, for next year, and then her her ladies like the chickens and the ducks, they get lazy over the winter, so now she cut us off from the duck eggs and the milk. So now I'm feeling very sad.
next year stockpile the eggs in the fall before she runs out. If they're not washed, they'll keep for months.
Well, we kind of crush eggs, so
Yeah.
they don't last too long.
Yeah, they don't last too long. We love eggs. Yeah, so I'm curious, what do you feed your animals?
The pigs get a mixture of peanuts and wheat, and I added non-GMO corn in because of the high protein on the peanuts. It would take me a long time to get the pigs to finish because, as you know, the high fat, high protein makes you lean. It doesn't make you get fat. Why your
So
pigs get bacon, right? So,
so the peanuts make the hogs lean?
well, because they're higher protein and higher fat, they're not really causing them to put on the weight you want on a pig.
Huh.
So, yeah. So that's interesting because that was a lesson learned for me. So I just added corn to their diet about 6 months ago. But the cows, they get grass or hay and then minerals. They are trained to come in for peanuts. The cows love some peanuts. I find that a little bribery is so much easier. Trying to get the herd to come up when they don't want to. They come, if I don't give them anything for 3 months, they hear me holler and they come and they get in the corral because they're looking for peanuts.
Wow. And the peanuts, you buy that.
It's sweepings actually from a peanut butter factory. So anything that falls on the floor and stuff, they sweep it into totes and they sell it by the ton.
Wow. Interesting.
So yeah,
That's pretty clever.
Hmm.
but you got to get clever to make farming work.
Yeah.
That's my guy about the freezer. That's my cue to go.
Okay. Yeah.
All right.
We'll let you get back to it, Amy. Thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate
Thank
your
you.
time.
Yeah, thank you,
Evening.
Amy.
Yeah, you have a good one.
All right. You too. Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. All right.
Move her from the stream. Yeah.
There we go.
Banned from studio. No, no. I guess she logged off, right?
Yeah,
Did she sign out?
I think she logged off, but I can do this.
Yeah. Well, that was very interesting. I wanted to ask her if, because she said she had woodland forests, and then she was clearing the trees to make it pasture land. But I was curious if the trees make extra food, or like if she has like some.
Oh, I started talking about silvopasture.
Yeah, I wanted to ask her about silvopasture setups, and how, well, just like her perspective on it. But I guess she said she feeds them grass, pasture, and then
Pasture.
the peanuts that she gets from a peanut butter factory.
Yeah, that's also a first thing I've ever heard before.
But did you hear? Peanuts make the pigs lean.
Lean.
High protein, high fat makes the pigs lean. How crazy is that? Moral of the story: grains make you fat.
Grains make you fat.
Yeah,
High protein, high fat, not so much.
but yeah, no, that was nice. I think I heard some things I hadn't heard before, for sure.
Yeah, no, great conversation with Amy from Franchesca's Dawn Farm.
Yeah. Make
And
sure make sure to sign up for the giveaway. She's giving away pastured, grass-fed, grass-finished beef. She's giving away some steaks, some roasts, and also some pastured pork sausages. Sounds delicious. We got some samples, and we've only tried one sausage. It was delicious, but
so good.
yeah, it was a spicy one, so it had like some spices added to it. But we also have like some more traditional ones that we have yet to try. But I'm definitely looking forward to it. And it's very interesting that her breed of cattle are not Angus, or like I suppose like the more regular ones. They are Devons, milking them Devon cows, red Devon cows,
Yeah,
something like that.
yeah.
Yeah. So she said it tastes different, and we'll get a taste of the ribeye she sent us.
Yeah. It's crazy how standardized beef is when you have so many different breeds.
Yeah.
Kind of makes me want to try all different breeds except for the standard beef. I don't even know what breed.
I guess Angus. Angus, they're like black. They're black.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I've seen in the supermarket, like the Angus beef package, but then
Yeah.
there's the other.
The other ones that don't say Angus. If they all were
Yeah.
Angus, they would all say Angus.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Oh yeah, that would have been a good question for her, but we'll have to ask her next time.
Next time she's
Or
on.
yeah, or the next farmer we talk to. Man, I'm hungry now.
Yes, a lot of talk about beef and animal foods.
Yeah, yeah. But two key takeaways: marketing and fencing, and
You can get started right away selling food.
yeah, yeah. We should figure out a way to integrate that.
Yeah, into Butterfield.
Yeah. What if we could create an online store and just offer like wholesale animals, and be like, reach out to farms and be like, hey, we can have your uh, half cow or like a quarter cow on
Mm.
our website.
Yeah.
And we get a little cut. Never touch the animal, but like we're putting it out, and then we drive people to our website, and that way we can support many different farms.
Oh yeah.
And we're only like selling it bulk, like wholesale, a quarter, half, etc. Something like that, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah,
So we can
that's pretty
support
good.
different ones. We don't have to hold inventory, and we do it in a way where they don't have to hold inventory either,
Yeah,
I suppose. Something like that. I don't know. I'll have to think about it
yeah,
because it's a new idea I hadn't heard before.
I like that system,
I like it. Yeah. Yeah, like
especially trying to catch all those animals that shouldn't go to waste.
yeah, you could have a spot sale. Oh my god.
Spot sale, yeah,
You're yeah, yeah,
yeah,
like the pig broke its leg, flash sale on our website, like boom, hey, we're selling this pig in 4 parts. How much do you want?
yeah,
Obviously like at a discount, and that's it. She sends it to a processing facility, and then I guess they can do the shipping, or she does.
yeah.
uh I don't know how that tiny detail works, but anyways, lots of good information. We'll hit the hour and 40 mark. We had a question from Frank C. You want to just click on it? Let's go to hit tuned in. Is paleo the same as primal? I'm not familiar with those two. I don't think so. I think paleo is supposed to emulate the Paleolithic, paleontological
Paleolithic, yeah,
Paleolithic diet, which is basically whole foods minus dairy and minus grains, as far as I'm concerned. So basically keto plus fruits. Primal, I believe, is more. I'm actually not sure what the clear distinction is for primal. I
yeah. Primal is like
primal. I think
it's like an IG marketing term or
I think
something.
primal is like what Paul Saladino does.
But he calls it animal based.
Yeah. Oh, actually, it might be. I think it's what Liver King does, which is like kind of like what Paul Saladino does, plus rice and potatoes, maybe. So like the good grains is rice is rice paleo?
Rice is not paleo.
Are potatoes paleo?
I don't think so. No starches, I
No,
think.
no starches. I don't know.
I don't think so.
I don't care. I'm a carnivore.
I know, right? It's like
Yeah.
once you're carnivore, that's it.
All right. Yeah. We should call it. We have a phone call at 9.
Yeah.
So thanks everyone for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to like, subscribe, and share. If you'd like to support the show, go like and share our content. We offer 2-on-1 carnivore animal based coaching to help you on your goals for weight loss and building muscle. So if you're ready to start improving your life today, feel free to reach out, and you can leverage our combined 15 plus years experience of failing at diets and failing at the gym so that you don't have to. Anything else you want to add?
Yeah, just like and subscribe. And if you want some coaching, we got you.
Yeah. Don't buy our supplements because we don't sell any.
We got no supplements to sell you.
Yeah,
Real people helping real people.
that's right. And don't forget to sign up for the free giveaway link in our Instagram story. Free pastured meats from Francesca's Dawn Farm.
Let's go.
Let's go. All right.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Have a good night.
Have a good night.